Hello everyone, welcome back to the workshop. Today we are back on with the main effort, which is the Ariel Bantam project, and we're going to delve into the gearbox. We're not going to go bananas, I said it Ian, we're not going to go bananas, we're just going to get in there and have a look at it and make sure that there's everything in there that there should be. Basically make sure that there is a gearbox in the gearbox, because when I tried to get the gears, admittedly the gear lever that I was using wasn't perfect for the job. I tried to get the gears and I couldn't get them all, so yeah, let's get in there and have a look and make sure that everything is in there. We're going to give everything a really good clean as well. The crankcase is going to get a huge effort, a huge clean, 3-stage clean, and you'll see what I mean by that, because when I come to measure it up to get it into the frame, I don't want to be dealing with something that's grotty and horrible. We want something pleasant to work with. So that is the plan. We'll delve into the gearbox and we'll do some cleaning. I'm sure that you've noticed the objet d'art here on the bench. We have the Ariel cranks hanging their heads in shame, as they should do. And we have another crank as well. And those of you that watch Phil Whitley, My Week This Week, you will have heard him say, great channel by the way, you will have heard him say when he does something technical or new that he has advanced a tech level. Well, we have advanced a coolness level, because this is a Lambretta crank, and if this is a Lambretta crank, that can mean only one thing. Mark from Team Pacemaker was in this very workshop and kindly brought us, when I say us, I'm talking about myself and Mr. Tweed, because obviously this is a joint project, but brought us this crankshaft from a Lambretta, so that we can study it, well, the rod more than anything, because we think that the connecting rod out of a Lambretta will repair our Ariel cranks, or a pair of. And so Mark very kindly agreed to lend us this crankshaft. So we're going to strip this down and measure the rod and do a bit of head scratching, and hopefully come up with a scheme to use Lambretta rods to repair our Ariel crank, or cranks. And I think it's a goer, I really do. I think it will work. So that will be in a future video. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. Mark, as I say, very kindly dropped the crank off. We didn't unfortunately have time to do any filming. I detained him far longer than he had the time for. You know what I'm like, I took the hind legs off the poor fella. It was kind of like false imprisonment by the end. I really had to let him go. So thanks Mark, hugely appreciate you dropping in and dropping off the crank, and it was great to meet you. And to all of you who've never been over to Team Pacemaker and had a look at his videos, I urge you to go over there and check it out. Yeah, he knows so much about Lambrettas. He's massively knowledgeable about the history of the mark, about the different models, and he really is as cool as he comes across in his videos as well. So there you go, you're in for a treat. Go over to Team Pacemaker. Right, I'm doing it again, aren't I? Waffling on, so we better go and do some work, get into this gearbox and do some cleaning. Let's get on with it. No sprocket. I managed to get the sprocket removed, and I made the tool that I needed to remove the nut. Here it is. It's a Melco brand, Sheffield, England, proper original 1-inch Whitworth box spanner. And you need a box spanner because it has to go over the shaft, and I think even a double depth socket wouldn't be long enough, and trying to find a double depth 1-inch Whitworth socket anyway I think would prove to be quite difficult, because yeah, it's an unusual size. But I converted it into a socket like I said I would by welding, and I use the term loosely, a plate to the end of the, I parted off the other end of the box spanner, welded the plate on, bored it out, and then welded a socket through the hole. And I didn't have any TIG rods, not that it would be any neater if I did, but I used my gasless MIG, and yeah, it spat some fire and it's plenty strong, very, very strong. So just not the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, but there you go, it never is with me. So that's that done, that's that removed. But what a palaver. It was super tight. Look, you see there's quite a lot of play in that. we're going to have some fun, I think, when we take this gearbox apart. It's going to need bearings and bushes at the very, very least. Let me show you the rest of the bits that came off and give you the story. So, yeah, it was a palaver. I had to warm up the nut with the gas to get it to move. But, as you can see, it's pristine. No signs of the chiseler. And I wasn't sure if it was a left hand or a right hand thread, because on the Bantam it's a left hand thread, because you think about it, the sprocket rotates as you're looking at it anti-clockwise, so it's trying to loosen itself. It's probably why this thing was so tight, to stop it from doing that. But yeah, I wasn't sure whether it was right or left hand. There was no mention of it in the Ariel book that I could see, although the images did tend to show people, you know, by the way they were gripping onto the Tommy bar, it looked like a conventional right hand. But I wanted to be sure, so I contacted one of my viewers, Peter, another Peter, not BSA Bantam Peter, Peter Wright, who is also building an Ariel Bantam, and we're in touch, because obviously he's treading the same path that Tweedy and I are treading. And I knew that Peter had stripped his engine down, so I contacted him to ask him about this nut, and he very kindly replied and told me that it was a right hand. So thanks, Peter. You helped me out there and you kept me on the right path. So we knew which way to turn it at least. It was just very, very tight. But I don't think this has ever been off. And I've said that before, haven't I? But the fact that this isn't chiseled to death, and the fact that the tab washer, when you look at it, you see how many bites of the cherry you get with a tab washer. Only one of them had been used. Only one tab had been bent. And it was very neat. Very neatly done indeed. And again, no signs of abuse or chiselling. So I don't think this has ever been apart. Or if it has, it was a long time ago. And whoever did it was very proficient and knew what they were doing. Maybe a dealership or something like that. You know, a motorcycle workshop. But possibly never. There is some wear in the sprocket. It is a bit worn. But it isn't terrible. You know, it could be all hooked and nasty. And it isn't. But we'll replace it. But yeah, maybe hasn't done, you know, too many miles. A lot of these bikes tended to be like that, didn't they? Not done a lot of miles, but for whatever reason been abused for all of those miles. But anyway, you know, I'm stalling. We need to get into that gearbox and take it apart and see what's going on. So we'll do that next. Right, no more delay. We'd best have at it, hadn't we? Carefully, of course, but have at it nonetheless. I've been doing a little bit of reading, so I have a notion of what we should see when we get in here. You can see by the filth that I have not been in here yet. This is completely new to me, so you are getting the benefit of dismantling an Ariel Leader Gearbox without having to go to the expense of buying one and driving to Kent to pick it up. So there you go. Yeah, we're gonna do this together. Hopefully, when we get in there, we find gearbox components. But as I mentioned to you before, I did try to. I had a gear lever, or I've got a gear lever that it didn't quite fit very well. I don't know what it's off. It might have been a Francis Barnett one actually. But yeah, it didn't fit too great, so I didn't want to put too much force on it and muller up the splines, because that spline there looks like it's a little bit damaged already. Although I think it will be fine. I could find first gear, so I could select up the way. First gear is up on these, but I couldn't find any of the downshift gears. Well, upshift if you go in, if you get my drift, you're going up the box, but you're going down with your foot on the selection. And I couldn't find. There should have been another 3 gears in there somewhere. Couldn't find them. So yeah, it may just be that the gearbox was a little bit stiff and there's no oil in it. And I was turning the main shaft and you know, twizzling the sprocket around a bit, but we know that there's no oil in it because I removed the oil drain plug and the filler plug, not the filler plug, the level plug, to let the air in. Nothing came out, so come out, you bugger. That nut didn't want to come out. Just the grease and gunk sticking it into the socket, I think. Excuse me. So this casing should come off, this cover. This is the Kickstarter outer cover, as described in the manual. We should find the Kickstarter return spring, which we know that is working, because we get a grip of it, turn it, and the main shaft spins. So we know that that's working. So there's definitely something between the Kickstarter and the main shaft. So there is some innards in there. But yeah, we should find the Kickstarter return spring and part of the gear selector mechanism. So let me just put these nuts on the bit of workshop roll we've got there laid out on the bench, so we don't lose them. 7/16 is the size of the socket, if you're interested. And I think I've got them all. Did I get all the washers? No, I didn't get all the washers. I left one on. It's no good, is it? Right. Can you see? What can you see? Yes, I think you're in the best place to get a view. You may be slightly in my way, but I'll work around you. I'm good like that. Wow. Okay, that is not moving. Probably just years of, you know, being stuck together. But what we're not going to do is any kind of prying action. I don't mean peering over the neighbour's fence. I don't mean that kind of prying. You know what I mean. Okay, that is pretty well stuck. So I think what I'm going to do is have a bit of a clean around and squirt some stuff, and then we'll have another go at it. Because I don't want to break anything. We've come this far, haven't we, without smashing anything. So let's see if we can continue in that vein. Okie dokie. It is moving now. It was just gasket, just a bit of gasket stiction. You will observe mole grips on the Kickstarter shaft. Oh, what's he doing? Mole grips on the Kickstarter shaft. He was just talking about the splines getting damaged. Well, I've wrapped a bit of brass around. I just had another look at the manual, and it does talk about refitting the Kickstarter to stop the Kickstarter spring from firing out and unwinding. It mentions bruised knuckles, and yeah, I'm not keen on that. So I wrapped a bit of brass around, thin sheet brass, and just put the small mole grips on there. Because I don't have a Kickstarter, so can't fit the Kickstarter because I haven't got one. But anyway, I'm just going to move you back a little bit because this looks like it's about to come off, and I need a bit of room, a bit of space to work in. So I just cleaned around it with a bit of Rockies on a cloth and just let it soak into the gasket a little bit. And it's moving. It's just the fact that there's 7 studs holding it on. Just trying to get it to come off evenly. Oh, it's unwound. Something's happened, hasn't it? Yeah, definitely the Kickstarter spring is doing something nefarious. Here we go. It's coming now. What's it going to do? Is it going to fire out? It doesn't look very happy. It doesn't look very happy at all. It looks like it's going to do something unpleasant. Oh no, it hasn't. It's just looks like it's just slipped off of its whatever it was engaged with. Okay, let me see if you can see. No point making a video if you can't see. So there we go, Kickstarter case. So we have got a Kickstarter spring and pawl, and we've got a big horseshoe shaped spring that tensions the gear pedal, and we've got a selector claw. Which feels a bit wibbly wobbly, but maybe it's supposed to. It doesn't look as though anything's got a terrific amount of wear on it. First inspection. Right, put this to one side. There is rust, though. There's been water in here. Yes, there has been water in here, and there is rust, and there is no oil in it. Yeah, it's been sat with water in the bottom of the gearbox. Does not bode well, does it? However, the presence of components is refreshing. That's good. There's a speedometer drive there. Well, so far so good. It looks as though there are components in there. Now, I'm just going to reconsult the manual, the next step, just to make sure that I'm doing this right, because we don't want to break anything. But I'm fairly sure that we can do this screw here, and that is it. And we can withdraw the this part. This is another casing here. There's another joint here. We can withdraw this sort of gearbox cover and the whole of the gearbox effectively, apart from the main shaft, which is in the other side of the gearbox, should come out as an assembly with all the selectors and everything intact. That's the theory. So stand by. Let's double check that that is the next step. And because, you know, exactly the same as you, I'm doing this step by step. I'm going into this for the first time. So let's make sure that is correct, and then we'll do it. Right, well, I've confirmed that is indeed the procedure. We've got a screw down here that we remove, and then we can remove the, they call this the Kickstarter casing. The other bit's the Kickstarter cover, and there's a bush there. But I've just moved you, and I've got the lamp because I realised you couldn't see very much. So you can see in here where all the water's been sitting. We've got a selector drum here, which the selector claw on the Kickstarter cover was engaged with. We've got this bush up here that the Kickstarter shaft sat and ran in. This will be the lay shaft, the end of the lay shaft. And then we've got the speedometer drive down here. There's a little worm gear with a bevel pinion that drives the speedometer, which we're not going to be using. We'll probably just end up blanking the outside off. We're not going to be using that, I don't think. I mean, we may do, but the thing is, the Ariels had 16-inch wheels, and we're going to be using 18-inch wheels. So the ratios are going to be all over the place. I think we're just going to use an electronic speedo. That's my plan, at least. So I'm going to remove this screw, and then we'll see if we can get this to come out. Probably ought to remove that bolt there. Oh no, doesn't matter. Or does it? No, the joint is there, so it makes no difference whether we remove that bolt or not. So we'll leave it in. Right, I'll grab a screwdriver and let's get to it. So I just need to move you slightly because you are hideously underfoot. There we go. It was reassuringly tight, but not ridiculously so. Little short, coarse thread screw. Right. Bit more tippy tappy. Appreciate that the view is not great for you guys because the lighting isn't ideal. Can I do anything about that? Can I attach the light to the tripod somehow in a manner that you will be able to see? Stand by. A tiny bit better, I like to tell myself. So hopefully you agree. Oh, it's coming. Well, there appears to be a gearbox in there, guys, so that's a win, isn't it? It looks pretty clean, to be honest with you. It smells gear oily, although there's no oil in it. That kind of bodes well that there might have been at some point. Just want to be really careful because if it all drops to bits, that won't be great, will it? Okay, so the main shaft has come out with it. I'm just going to go over to the bench, you won't be able to see me, and lay this lot down, and there's a gear in the bottom of the casing that has dropped off from somewhere. He's dropped off from somewhere. The main shaft was supposed to stay in the gearbox. Right, that gear goes on there. Right, so I figured out where that gear goes. So I'm going to get you a view of the inside of the gearbox casing. Just wipe my hands because I'm all oily, and then we'll go to the bench and have a look at the gearbox itself. Right. Now you're getting that horrible strobe effect from the lamp, so apologies for that. Okay. So that's the inside of the gearbox casing. We've got a bearing in there, main shaft bearing. We've got a bush down here, which appears to be keyed with a pin. I know you can't see anything from my finger. And we've got another bush down here, which I think is the bush for one of the selector shafts. Yeah, it is, because there's another one. You just about see it here. There's another one here. One here and one here. So that's two selector shaft bushes. And then that will be the lay shaft bush. And then we've got the main shaft bearing. Yeah, it looks like there has been moisture in there. However, let's just go over to the bench. Here is the gearbox. So here is the gearbox. Doesn't look bad, does it? Not quite sure why the main shaft came out, but I'm not complaining because it didn't all drop to bits. That little gear there on the end, that was in the bottom of the gear casing. That dropped off, but it's fairly obvious where it goes. So there we go, one gear cluster, all in one piece. So obviously we're going to have a really good examination of all the parts, make sure we haven't got any teeth missing or anything like that. But to be perfectly honest with you, it all looks, straight off the bat, quite good. So I'm not sure why I couldn't get the gears. I think it's probably because the selector mechanism was a bit jammed up. But I'm going to leave that for the moment all in one piece like that, because I want to do a lot more reading before I start breaking into it. And the main priority for me now is to get this thing clean, and I'm going to use a 3-stage cleaning method. So first off, I'm going to give it a really good spray down with this stuff. We'll put it through its paces. We'll give it a really good test. Rock Oil Dirt Blaster. So we're going to give it a really good squirt down with that, because some areas on this engine it looks as though it's been dug up out of the ground. It's absolutely caked in filth. So we'll give it a really good squirt down with this stuff. Then we'll give it a good scrape up to get the thick of the stuff off with a plastic scraper. And then hose it down, I would think, just to get the loose stuff off. And then it's going for a jolly good boil wash in the squeaky cleaner, in the big squeaky cleaner, with some of the alkaline cleaner that thing uses. So the ultrasonic bath. So it's going to go for a good swim in the ultrasonic bath, and then once it comes out of there, we'll go into the parts washer. Because if I put that in the parts washer now, I just have to change the solvent straight away, because it will just be black. I mean, you can literally scrape filth off of it with your finger. So that is going to be the 3-step clean. So I'm going to get on and do that, and I'll show you some of that as I'm doing it, I think. And you can see how I get on. And then once it goes into the squeaky cleaner, I'll leave it for a bit and let it do its thing. Right, outside on the deck and blacker, as my grandma would have called it. Right, you're on camera, Rock Oil. It's time to shine. Literally, time to shine. Oh, camera battery, stand by. Right, new battery fitted. So, this stuff is for just for cleaning, normal everyday cleaning of your bike. So we're asking rather a lot of it, but if we're going to put it to the test, let's put it to the test. And I will be going around with the scraper, which smells nice. I will be going around with the scraper and removing the stub and stuff. But this will hopefully just loosen up some of the really bad filth, and give the squeaky cleaner a fighting chance. Well, I think you can see that there's pretty cruddy stuff running off it, so it's definitely loosening the dirt. But I'm going to leave that to soak in for a bit, because I've just made a cup of tea and it's getting cold. Right, that'll do. Let that soak in for a bit and I'll come back and give it a scrape. Well, it works anyway. Like I say, it's a bit of a harsh test really, but if it brings this stuff off, then the job that it was intended to do, which is just, you know, cleaning your bike after you've been out for a ride, you should handle that without any problems at all, shouldn't it? But anyway, I'll stop kicking the camera and carry on. Then we'll get it in the squeaky cleaner. You can hear the squeaky cleaner in the background probably. I'm just warming it up, and it warms up quicker if you put it through a cycle. So that's what I'm doing. Right, just wait for that train to go by. That's after a 20-minute soak of the dirt blaster. A bit of an agitation with the brush, and I just threw a bucket of cold water over it. So for a pre-clean, I'm really pleased with that. So that can go into the vat of squeakiness, and we'll give it a couple of cycles and we'll see what it's like when it comes out. Right, there we go. It's not nearly clean, it's really clean. And if you're not from the UK, you won't have a clue what I'm talking about. And if you are, and you're of a certain age, you will remember those commercials. I think it was laundry detergent or something like that. Is it really clean? Well, it's pretty clean. I've still got the gasket faces to do, and there's still some bits of traces of old gasket. And there are one or two areas, little pockets that I couldn't quite get into with the cleaning brush, but I will get in there with some workshop wipes and finish the job. But it's certainly come up very, very nicely, and the stuff in the squeaky cleaner has definitely brightened the alloy considerably. That's corrosion in there in the crankcase. I'll need to get in there and get that cleaned out. But yeah, my plan is eventually to get it vapor blasted, to get everything vapor blasted, all the castings on the engine, because the finish you get is really, really nice. That sort of silky, partially shiny finish. But for now, certainly, you know, you're not going to get filthy handling it or moving it around. It's just a much more pleasant proposition. So let me get that out of the way, and we'll have a look at the other bits. Oh, it's a lump, but considerably less of a lump now that it's empty. So try not to kick the camera over. The main event, the gearbox itself. This has been through the parts cleaner, as you can probably see. That's the camera making that noise, by the way, not my legs. Yeah, everything moves, everything appears to be there, but we won't really know until we strip it down. And in order to strip it down, we need to remove, this bit's falling off. We need to remove a few things. We need to remove the split pins that secure the selector shafts that are in here. We need to remove the selector drum, which is effectively like a cam type thing. Let me just turn it the right way up and turn that so you can see stuff move. You can see that it's effectively a cam drum that turns, similar to what you've seen in other gearboxes. Moves things around, selects your gears, and yeah, we'd need to remove the selector shafts to split the gearbox down, and remove the kickstarter pinion as well. That pinion's just fallen off. Remove the kickstarter pinion to withdraw the main shaft. Yeah, so we're not going to do that right now, but mission accomplished. We found out that it appears to be complete, or relatively complete as far as we can see, and we've done some cleaning. So that is a really handy lump now to be able to put in the plastic box and put away for later on in the project. Same with the Kickstarter outer casing. I've had all this apart. The Kickstarter shaft comes out. It's got a spacing collar on there, fits in there, and the spring fits on that little spigot there. We've got the clutch mechanism. I'm hoping that you can see all this clutch mechanism in there. So this has all had a good wash out, and then we've got the gear selector claw and shaft. There's a little O-ring on the end of there that stops the oil from disappearing, and then you have this horseshoe U-shaped spring that takes care of the return action, and when it's all assembled, this part is pushed right in there against that spring pressure, and the return action, quite positive really, by the use of this U-shaped spring. So yeah, much more robust than the return spring mechanism you find in a Bantam gearbox. Yeah, I'm very impressed with this gearbox. It's a really nice piece of kit, very well engineered. Yeah, like I say, first time I've ever had one of these to pieces. You can see how that casting's come up. It's come up really nice. A little bit of corrosion about it here and there, but like I say, we will get it vapor blasted, hopefully, if I can find somewhere nearby that does it. And it will be resplendent, I'm sure, when we come to put it all back together again. But yeah, I'm really pleased that I decided to delve into the gearbox, because not only am I pleased that everything appears to be present, probably just gummed up and there was no oil in it either, so you know, things are probably just a bit stuck. But it's, you know, it's pleasing to look at, isn't it? It's nice to see, it's nice to learn new things and see how things work. So all that will get boxed up now safely and securely, and we will revisit in a later episode. Right, we'll leave this one here, I think. Thanks very much indeed for helicopter. Thanks very much indeed for watching and for spending the time with me. I really do appreciate it. It's been a real bonus for me to find out that this gearbox is in, you know, fairly decent nick, and I can put that away now and not worry too much about it until, you know, the time, you know, it's the time to rebuild the engine. So that's, you know, yeah, it's been a real bonus for me, and I hope that it has for you too. Next time around, we've got to get back on with this job. This, of course, the stem for the front forks, and we've got to make another one to get it back on its wheels and standing on its forks. So that will be the next job. I've got a nice drop of EN16 in the T condition to make it from. Probably a bit too much really, but you know, you buy what's available, don't you? Yeah, so we will hopefully get a more appropriate one of those out of that, and I will go through the material specs and why we're using it and all that good stuff, and the setup on the lathe in the video. So do watch out for that. Hopefully it won't be too long in the making. Right, I will just say thanks very much indeed. Thanks for all your subscriptions. Those of you who've been with me for a while, thanks for sticking with me. And those of you who have come along more recently, and there's quite a few of you, welcome aboard. You are very welcome, and I hope that you continue to enjoy the videos. If you're not subscribed, we won't cost you a shilling, so please do consider hitting the button, ringing the bell, and we'd be happy to have you. Do please keep the comments coming. I get some fantastic comments, and I like to try and answer them in the videos if possible. Then everybody gets to share, the answers. So yeah, do please keep those coming, and I will endeavour to keep on top of replying to you. So I will say, mind how you go, and I will see you on the next video. Bye for now.